The bridge over Mill Creek was a narrow strip of weathered planks, and at 5:47 on a Thursday in early November, the woman standing on it had been there for 40 minutes. She wore a gray cashmere coat that did not belong to Vermont, and gripped the railing with both hands, looking down at water that ran black in the failing light. A handbag rested by her feet. A blue pickup truck slowed as it crossed her line of sight. The driver, a man in his early 40s, glanced into the rearview mirror, drove on for 30 feet, and stopped. He sat for 15 seconds with both hands on the wheel. Then he reversed. He rolled down the window. He did not ask if she was all right. He said, "Are you planning to jump?" She turned, startled. "No, I believe you. But I can't drive away if you stay there. My wife stood on this bridge 8 years ago. She wasn't going to jump either. She was just tired. She died 3 years later from something else. I've never forgiven myself for not asking her, that day, if she was tired. So I'm asking you, are you tired?" She did not answer. She bent down and picked up her bag. The road back to his house was 2.5 miles of dirt cut through maple woods, and inside the cab of the truck neither of them spoke. He did not turn on the radio. He did not ask her name. When he turned into the gravel drive, he said, "I'm Adrian. My daughter's name is Wren. She's 8. I'm not going to ask you who you are. There's one rule in this house. Nobody has to say anything they're not ready to say." Wren went 4 months without speaking after her mother died. The rule is for her, but it applies to everyone. She nodded once. She did not speak. The cabin was a single-story log house with a steep roof and smoke rising from the chimney. Wren sat at the kitchen table drawing in colored pencil. She looked up when the door opened, studied the woman for 3 seconds, and then said to her father, "Dad, she's cold. I'll get a blanket." She ran off down the hall. Adrian poured a mug of ginger tea and pushed it across the counter. The woman's hands shook when she lifted it. He did not comment. He said, "You can shower. There are clean towels in the bathroom. I left a flannel shirt on the bed in the spare room. Dinner's at 7. Eat with us if you want. Otherwise, I'll save you a plate." She showered. When she came out, Wren had set a bowl of chicken soup at the middle seat of the table. The seat the child had decided without asking anyone was now the woman's seat. Over dinner, Adrian asked nothing personal. He talked about the town. Mrs. Doris had broken her ankle the previous week. Mr. Henderson needed help with a fence. Wren chimed in here and there. The woman ate slowly and listened. At the end of the meal, Wren asked, "Do you like to draw?" The woman hesitated. "I used to." Wren slid the box of colored pencils across the table. "Draw with me. I'm making this for Mrs. Doris. I'm giving it to her tomorrow." The woman picked up a pencil. She drew a single tulip beside the child's house. Wren studied it and said, "Mrs. Doris likes tulips. You guessed right." At 9, Adrian led the woman to the small spare room off the kitchen. "Towels in the closet. The key is on the table. You can lock it from the inside. Breakfast is at 7. You don't have to be up. If you want to leave in the morning, I'll drive you to the bus station. If you want to stay, nobody asks." He closed the door softly. She sat on the edge of the bed and pulled out her phone. It had been off for 8 hours. She turned it on. 47 missed calls. 33 messages. She did not read them. She turned the phone off again. Before the screen went dark, she saw one message from Maggie, sent 6 hours earlier, just as she had boarded the train. "Eleanor, I won't ask where you are, but you need to know one thing when you're ready to hear it. Your father isn't talking to you about his health because he forgot. He's waiting for you to come home on your own." She read it 3 times. She did not understand. Her father's health. She stood up and reached for the doorknob. She wanted to ask Adrian if there was Wi-Fi so she could call Maggie back, but she stopped at the door because she could hear Adrian reading aloud in Wren's room, the part of Charlotte's Web where Charlotte dies. His voice cracked mid-sentence. She heard Wren say softly, "It's okay, Dad. Mom's still here." She stepped back. She did not call Maggie that night. She did not sleep. At 6:40 in the morning, she came out to the kitchen because she had not slept. Adrian was at the table reading a long handwritten note. Wren was already in her coat, eating toast. Adrian poured coffee for the woman without asking and pushed the cup toward her. Her eyes drifted to the note in his hand and caught the list. Doris, soup, fix the heater. Henderson, fence, bring nails. Wren, pick up at 3:15. Mary Ellen, Take her prescription. Swing by the pharmacy. Library, 6:30, math class. At the bottom, in smaller letters, buy new colored pencils for Ren. She asked, "Do you do all of this in one day?" Adrian gave the first real smile she had seen from him. "Today's heavier than usual because of Mrs. Doris. Most days it's 3 or 4 things. Enough to fill a day. Not enough to break me." Ren cut in. "Dad, you forgot to teach me how to prune the apple tree this weekend." He added it. She hugged him, hugged the woman in the same quick reflex of an 8-year-old who had decided this person belonged in the morning routine, and ran out to the school bus. The woman watched through the window. Without turning, she said, "Do these people pay you?" Adrian was clearing the table. "Mrs. Doris brings eggs. Henderson brings firewood. Mary Ellen knits sweaters. The school pays me for math class with free lunches for Ren all year. I don't charge." She turned back. "Then how do you live?" "I do contracting work on weekends for the vacation houses. Boston people. It covers the property tax and feeds Ren. I don't need much." She asked the question she had not meant to ask. "Aren't you afraid that one day Ren will resent you for not giving her more?" Adrian set the cup he had been rinsing back into the sink. He turned around and looked at her for a long time. "I taught ethics at Brown. I wrote 2 books on what people owe each other. I had dinners with deans and flew to Berlin to give talks. I had more. My wife had stomach pain for 6 months. I was too busy to take her in. By the time she went, the cancer was at stage 4. She was gone in 4 months. Ren doesn't need more. Ren needs a father who's there. I chose there. I'll choose it again every day I have left." He did not cry. He went back to washing the cup. His hands were not quite steady. The woman sat down. Something inside her chest moved for the first time in a long time. Adrian was not a small-town handyman. He was a man who had burned his old life down with his own hands because he had no other way to survive. She asked, "Could I stay a few more days?" He poured her more coffee. "You can stay as long as you need. The room's empty." He went to the door and stopped. "One thing. You don't have to tell me who you are, but you should call somebody. You have people who'd worry. I saw you turn the phone off 3 times last night through the door." She did not deny it. When he reached the door, she said, "What was your wife's name?" He turned. "Madeline," she nodded. Then, almost to herself, she said, "My name is Eleanor. My mother used to call me Nora. She died when I was 14. Adrian looked at her. He did not speak. He nodded once and left. She had given him a name. Not her full name, the name her mother had used. Adrian took her with him that day. He did not press. He only said, "You can stay at the house or come along. I'm not asking for a reason. You just look like someone who needs to be somewhere." She came. In the truck, he said, "I'll introduce you as a friend." She nodded, grateful. Mrs. Doris was 78, lived alone, had broken her ankle the week before. She opened the door, took one look at Nora, and said, "Come in, come in. Adrian, your friend's beautiful." While Adrian worked on the heater, Mrs. Doris pulled Nora into the kitchen, poured tea, and started telling stories. She talked about Adrian as a boy in Millbrook, about him going off to school, about him coming back with a little girl who still looked stunned, and a kind of sadness he never spoke about. She said, "You know, in 3 years not one person in this town has had to call a repairman. Adrian does it all. When Ren had the flu last winter, the whole town brought soup to that house." Nora asked, "Do you think he's happy?" Mrs. Doris paused with the teapot in her hand. "Happy is a big word. I don't know. But I know he's living. There are days when not living would be easier after you lose someone. Adrian's living. That's not nothing." She added, more quietly, "You're not living much either, are you, sweetheart?" Nora did not answer. Mrs. Doris took her hand. "It's all right. Adrian won't ask. But I'm an old woman. I see it. You stay as long as you need." In the afternoon, they went to Mr. Henderson's. He was 81, a Korean War veteran, gruff and lean. He asked Nora nothing. He poured her a black coffee and let her sit on the porch and watch the field. When Adrian finished the fence, Henderson spoke loudly enough for Nora to hear. "Your friend out there is wearing a $1,000 coat in a Vermont field. I've seen a lot of strange things in this life, but she's running from something big. Don't let her run too far from herself. Adrian did not answer. Henderson kept going. Your wife stood like that too, in 2018, when she dropped off my prescription. I asked her if she was all right. She said yes. She wasn't. I've spent every year since wishing I'd asked her twice. Don't make the same mistake. Adrian was very still. Nora, on the porch, heard every word. She understood now why he had stopped the truck. Not because he was kind, because, after what he had lived through, he had no other choice left. On the drive home, Nora spoke first. I have an uncle. He called me 14 times yesterday. I didn't pick up. I'm not afraid he's angry. I'm afraid he'll tell me something I've already guessed and don't want to know yet. Adrian kept his eyes on the road. Some things hurt more if you find out late. I learned that one. That night, Nora turned her phone on. She did not call her father. She did not call her uncle. She called Maggie. The call lasted 7 seconds. She said, Maggie, what's wrong with my father? There was a long silence. Then Maggie said, Eleanor, I made a promise to your father. I'm going to break it. Your father has stage 3 heart failure, 6 to 9 months without surgery. He's refused the surgery. As for the reason, you'll have to come home and ask him. Nora hung up. She walked into the woods behind Adrian's house. She did not cry. For 30 seconds, she could not breathe. 6 to 9 months. Her father was dying, and she had run. She did not go inside right away. She sat on a maple stump for half an hour. The temperature was dropping. Through the window, Adrian watched her. He did not come out at first. He waited 10 minutes. Then he put on his coat, brought a wool blanket and a thermos of hot tea, and walked down to the stump. He sat beside her, not too close, and laid the blanket over her shoulders. He handed her the cup. He did not ask. She spoke without looking at him. My father is dying. I didn't know. I ran away 2 days ago from something I now realize wasn't what I thought it was. I've been angry at him my whole life because I thought he killed my mother with his company. Now he's dying and I don't know if I can come back. Adrian listened. He did not soothe her. He did not say it would be all right. After 3 minutes of quiet, he said, Do you know what was hardest after Madeline died? Not the grief, living with the fact that I treated her badly. There's no way to fix it. She's gone. You still have your father. You have what I don't. She cried. She cried for the first time since her mother had died 22 years before. She cried for an hour. Adrian did not move. His hand stayed on the blanket at her shoulder. When she was quiet, she said, I have to go back. He nodded. You have to go back. But I don't know what I'll say. I don't know what I want. If I go home and say I'll be CEO just because my father needs me, I'll become my mother. My mother died doing what she didn't want because my father needed it. I can't repeat it. He thought about that. Then he said, Then don't go tomorrow. Stay a few more days. Find an answer you can live with. Your father has waited 22 years. He can wait another 4. She looked at him. You're telling me the opposite of what you should be telling me. I'm telling you what I wish someone had told me 6 months before Madeline was diagnosed. Don't decide in a hurry. Hurried decisions are how people betray themselves. They went inside. Wren was already asleep. Adrian made more coffee. They sat at the kitchen table until 2 in the morning. They did not talk about the decision. Adrian talked about Madeline. It was the first time he had given anyone the full picture. She had been the best family doctor Pawtucket ever had. She knew the names of every child. She came home each evening and told him who she had helped that day. When he finished, Nora said, My mother's name was Caroline. She used to tell stories like that, about the company. When I was small. She stopped when I was 7. By then, the company had grown too big. She came home talking about meetings and exhaustion. I remember the exact week the good stories stopped. Adrian did not speak. He touched her hand. 1 second. Then he pulled it back. At 6 in the morning, Nora was asleep on the kitchen bench. Adrian draped a blanket over her. He went out to the porch and made a phone call. He called David Kohler, his closest friend from Brown, now a cardiologist at Yale New Haven. He said, David, a 69-year-old man, stage 3 heart failure, refused a transplant. Does he still have a chance if he changes his mind in the next 30 days? David was silent. Then he said, Yes, the window is closing. Every day of delay drops the success rate by 1.5%. If he decides this month, we're still at 70. After that, it slides. Adrian hung up. He looked through the window at Nora asleep. He had made a decision she had not been asked to approve. He did not tell her about the call that day. He let her have time. He also did not push her toward the door. They worked around the house together. Wren showed Nora how to feed the chickens. Adrian fixed the wobble in the kitchen table. Nora washed windows for the first time in her life. She did it badly. Wren laughed. Adrian did not laugh, but his eyes did. That night, after Wren was asleep, Adrian was repairing a wooden doll, one of Wren's toys. Nora sat across from him knitting a scarf. Mary Ellen had taught her 2 days earlier. Her stitches were uneven but steady. On the bookshelf, there was an old acoustic guitar covered in dust. Nora asked, "Do you play?" Adrian glanced at it. Madeline played. I learned a few chords to back her up. Silence. After 10 minutes, he stood, took the guitar down, wiped the dust off with his sleeve. He tuned it slowly. He played Wildwood Flower. His hands were rusty. The melody was clear. When he finished, Nora said quietly, "My real name is Eleanor Whitmore. My father is Edmund Whitmore. I was named CEO of Whitmore Capital Group at a family meeting 2 days before I came here. $3.8 billion. I ran the moment my father said, in front of the family, Eleanor will lead this company the way her mother wanted. My mother died because of that company. On her deathbed, she told me not to let it eat me. I have never told anyone, not even him." Adrian listened to all of it. He showed no surprise about the size of the company. He asked one question. "Does your father know what your mother said to you?" She shook her head. "She said it when he was in the next room. I never told him." Adrian nodded slowly. "Then before you decide anything about CEO, you should tell him." She looked at him. "You're telling me to walk up to a dying man and tell him his wife told me the opposite of what he's believed his whole life? I'm telling you that if you don't, he'll die with the misunderstanding, and you'll live with the misunderstanding for the rest of your life. I know what that feels like. It doesn't go away." Nora sat still. She had never thought of the problem that way. Her phone rang. It was Theo. She had not picked up in 3 days. This time she did. Theo's voice was tired. "Eleanor, I'm not going to ask where you are. I just need you to listen to me one time. You think I'm pushing you to be CEO because I want you to inherit. You're wrong. I prepared a different plan. If you refuse, I'll be acting CEO for 3 years, train someone from outside, and you walk away. Free. I signed those papers with the lawyer last week before your father announced you. I didn't tell your father because he'd be angry. I didn't tell you because I didn't want it to influence your choice. I just want you to know. You're not stuck. You've never been stuck. I love you more than I love this company. I love you the way I loved the daughter I never had." He hung up. Nora stood holding the phone. She did not cry. She had no tears left. She sat down. For 22 years, she had misunderstood her uncle. For 22 years, she had lived with the wrong story about her family. She said softly, "Adrian, I need to go back to Hartford tomorrow." He nodded. "I'll drive you to the train in the morning," he added, and she did not understand it then. "There's something I did you don't know about. I'll tell you when you come back." At 5:30 on Sunday morning, Nora had not slept. She sat at the kitchen table writing a letter to Wren by hand. 3 pages. She did not know when she would give it. She knew she had to write it. Adrian was up at 6. He did not ask what she was writing. He made coffee and toast. Wren got up at 6:30. She saw the handbag by the door. She stood for 2 seconds. Then she ran back down the hall. Adrian called gently, "Wren, come say goodbye." Silence. He went down the hall. Wren sat on her bed holding Madeline Bear, the stuffed rabbit her mother had given her at 5. She had held it for 2 years after Madeline died. Now her voice was gone in the way it had been gone for 4 months after the funeral. "She's not coming back, Dad. Mom didn't either." Adrian knelt in front of her. "Wren, look at me. Nora isn't your mother. She has to go home to her family. They need her. But she's different from Mom in one way. She can choose to come back. Mom didn't have a choice. Nora does." Wren cried without sound, the way she had cried in the 4 months after Madeline died. Adrian held her. Nora was at the door. She had heard everything. She came in and knelt beside the bed. She handed Wren the 3-page letter. "Wren, I wrote this for you. You can't read all of it yet, but I wrote it for you to keep. In the letter, I make 3 promises to you. 1. I will call you every Sunday night, no matter where I am. 2. I will come back to Millbrook by the end of this month. Not maybe. Will. 3. I will never disappear from your life without telling you. If I'm leaving, I'll say so first. You have a right to know. You have a right to trust me. Ren read. She knew how to read. She read slowly. When she finished, she looked at Nora. You promise for real? I promise for real. Ren held out Madeline Bear. Take her. So you remember to come back. Nora hugged the child. Adrian stood in the doorway. His eyes were red. On the drive to the Brattleboro station, Adrian said, I did something you don't know about. Thursday night, I called David Kohler. He's an old friend from Brown. He's a cardiologist at Yale, New Haven. I asked him about stage 3 heart failure. I didn't use your father's name. I asked how long the treatment window was. The answer was 30 days. After that, the transplant success rate drops every week. You have 30 days to convince your father to change his mind. I'm sorry if I overstepped. I couldn't not ask. Nora looked at him for a long time. You didn't overstep. You gave me information I needed. If you hadn't asked, I'd be going home not knowing how much time I had. At the station, before she boarded, he took her hand for the second time. Eleanor, I didn't save Madeline. I can't go back and fix it, but I'll do everything I can to keep you from living with the regret I'm living with. You have 30 days. You're not alone. She got on the train. She did not look back. If she looked back, she would not be able to leave. When the train started moving, she opened the paper bag he had handed her at the platform. He had said, eat something on the way. Inside was a sandwich, an apple, and a small note. On the note he had written, David's number. He's agreed to see your father any hour, any day, in the next 30 days. No charge. He's been my friend 22 years. He owed me one. I just used it on you. She arrived in Hartford at 1 in the afternoon. Maggie was waiting at the station. She did not ask. She hugged Nora. In the car back to her father's house, Maggie said, Eleanor, there's one last thing I held back. In 2003, I was in the hospital room when your mother said her last words to you. After you left, she said something to me. She said, if my daughter ever grows up and faces this same choice, tell her one thing. I don't regret working for the company. I regret working for it because your father needed it, not because I believed in it. She told me to wait until you came and asked. You came and asked Friday night. This is the answer I've been holding for 22 years. Nora cried. She had thought she had no tears left. Her mother had not told her to avoid power. Her mother had told her to avoid doing what she did not believe in. For 22 years, she had understood half of it. She got to her father's house at 2. Edmund was in his study, thinner than she remembered, his skin gray. He stood up slowly, and then he held her. He held her for a long time. He did not cry because he did not have the strength to cry. She cried for both of them. They sat down. She said, Dad, I know you're sick. Maggie told me. Don't be angry with her. I need to ask you a few things. I need you to answer me honestly. He nodded. Did you ever know what Mom told me at the end? He looked startled. What did she tell you? She told him, all of it. Her mother's words. 22 years of silence. The reason she had run. Edmund sank into the chair. He cried for the first time in 22 years. Eleanor, I didn't know. I thought she was delirious. I didn't ask. I spent 22 years believing I was building what your mother wanted. For you, I was wrong. She took his hand. You weren't wrong. You just didn't know. Maggie told me Mom didn't regret working for the company. She regretted working for it because you needed it, not because she believed in it. She wanted me not to make the same mistake. He asked. So what do you want, Eleanor? She breathed out. I want to take the CEO position, but on my terms, and I have 30 days to convince you of one thing. You have to agree to the transplant. I won't take the job if you don't live. I have a cardiologist at Yale, New Haven, ready to see you any hour, any day. David Kohler. He's a friend of someone in Vermont who helped me find myself. You can refuse the surgery for yourself. You don't get to refuse it for me. I just found you. You're not allowed to leave. Edmund nodded. He could not get the words out. Monday morning, Nora met Theo at the office. Theo, I heard your call Saturday night. I've misunderstood you for 22 years. I'm sorry. I'm taking the CEO job. You'll be vice chairman, not out of pity, because I need you. You've held this company together for 31 years. I need you to teach me how to love a thing long enough to sacrifice for it. Will you teach me that?" Theo, 64 and hard, cried. He held his niece. "Where did you grow up in 6 days, kiddo?" She smiled through tears. "In a place where nobody knew who I was, and a man asked me if I was tired." Wednesday, Edmund signed the surgical consent. The transplant was scheduled in 18 days. Success rate, 72%. Nora called Adrian to tell him. He said, "I'll be at Yale New Haven the day of the surgery." She said, "You don't have to." He said, "I know, I'll be there." She did not say thank you. She did not have words for it. That night she called Ren. It was Sunday. She kept the first promise. 18 days. Nora ran Whitmore Capital as a real CEO for the first time. She did not change much. She listened. She held 31 one-on-one meetings in 12 days. She walked every floor of the Hartford office. She learned the names of 200 employees. She called Ren every Sunday night. She made the first two. Ren told her about school, about Mrs. Doris, about Madeline Bear sleeping on her pillow now. Ren did not ask when Nora was coming back. She just trusted that she would. In Millbrook, Adrian was facing a choice of his own. The second week after Nora left, he got a call from Brown. The philosophy department was opening a position for him. Not chair, just visiting professor, 1 semester. They knew he would not come back full-time. They wanted to know if he would teach again. He did not answer right away. He walked in the woods for 3 hours. He thought about Madeline. Before she died, she had said to him, "Don't close the door all the way. There are kids who still need to hear what you have to say." He had closed the door all the way for 3 years. Why now? He knew why. Because for the first time in 3 years, someone had asked him if he was tired. Mrs. Doris had asked him the week after Nora left. She had said, "Adrian, you've helped this whole town for 3 years. When are you going to let someone help you?" He had not answered. He had walked home and thought. He took the Brown offer. 1 semester, taught by video from the town library, 1 session a week. He did not take it because he needed the money. He took it because he had realized he had spent 3 years living the way he refused to let Ren live, closed off from a part of himself that other people might still need. Madeline had been right. Nora had pointed it out without knowing. The day of the surgery, 18 days after the first phone call. Yale New Haven Hospital. Adrian drove 4 hours from Millbrook. He arrived at 6 in the morning. The surgery began at 7. He had left Ren with Mrs. Doris, who had healed enough to look after the child for 1 day. The waiting room. Nora, Theo, Maggie, and Adrian. Adrian sat 3 seats away. He did not move closer. He was simply there. In the 5th hour of waiting, Nora stood up, walked over to him, sat down beside him, and put her head on his shoulder. She did not speak. He did not speak. Maggie and Theo saw it and said nothing. At 7 in the evening, 12 hours in, the surgeon came out. The transplant was successful. Edmund had come through. The chance of full recovery in 6 months was 85%. Nora cried. Theo cried. Adrian did not cry. He held her hand tight. That night, after Edmund had woken and gone back to sleep, Nora and Adrian stood in the hallway outside the recovery ward. She said, "You saved my father." He answered, "You saved your father. I just held the door open so you could walk in." She held his hand and did not let go. The first time she did not let go. She said, "Adrian, I don't know how to live after this. I can't leave Hartford. You can't leave Millbrook and Ren. I don't have an answer." He looked at her. "Eleanor, I don't have an answer either. But I know one thing. Not having an answer doesn't mean having nothing. It means we have to build it." She nodded. She did not promise. He did not promise. They stood holding hands until midnight. 3 months. Edmund recovered on schedule. The 85% figure looked like it would hold. He came home after 3 weeks to a private nurse and a strict rehab calendar. Nora formally took the CEO role. She started the changes slowly. Not a revolution, 1 step at a time. She launched a $30 million microloan fund for small businesses in rural New England. She set up a 30 days of service program for management. She rewrote the mission statement by hand, at night, after 3 drafts. Theo was beside her at every important board meeting. A month into his vice chairman role, he was diagnosed with high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes. Not dangerous, just a reason to slow down. He was not upset. He told Nora, "I've waited 31 years for an excuse to work 4 days a week. Thank you for the excuse." Nora split her time, Monday through Thursday in Hartford, Friday through Sunday in Millbrook. She rented a small house half a mile from Adrian's. She did not move in with him. Not yet. She respected Wren's space. Adrian respected her decision. Adrian taught 1 session a week at Brown by video. He still fixed houses. He still taught math at the library on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Wren still drew and still wrote in her small notebook every night who she had helped today. Every weekend in Millbrook, the three of them ate dinner together, walked in the woods, stopped by Mrs. Doris's house. Mrs. Doris said to Nora one day, "You're different from when you first came. Back then you were like a wounded bird. Now you're like a bird who knows how to fly away and how to fly back." Nora smiled. Some Friday nights, Nora did not drive straight to her rented house. She came to the cabin first. She sat at the kitchen table while Adrian made dinner. She took off her work jacket and hung it on the back of a chair as if she had done it 100 times. Wren had stopped asking when Nora was arriving. She just set the third plate. Adrian and Nora had not talked about marriage. They did not need to. They were building, as Adrian had said, the answer they did not yet have. A Sunday evening in early February. Snow was falling thick. The three of them sat in the cabin. Wren was drawing. Nora was reading a report. Adrian was fixing an old clock. Wren looked up. "Dad, when is Nora moving in for real?" "I cleaned out the spare room already." Adrian and Nora looked at each other. They both laughed. Adrian said, "I don't know yet, sweetheart. Nora and I are talking about it." Wren said, "Talk faster. I'm 8. I've waited long enough." That night, after Wren was asleep, Adrian and Nora sat on the porch. Snow covered everything. He asked, "Do you want to?" She looked at him. "I've wanted to since the 3rd night I was here. I just didn't know I was allowed to want it." He kissed her. The first time. Snow settled lightly on their hair. She did not rush. He did not rush. They had 22 years of mistakes to make up for and the rest of their lives to do it right. November, 1 year later. 1 full year from the day Adrian had stopped his truck on the Mill Creek Bridge. Whitmore Capital had finished its first year under Nora. The microloan fund had distributed $42 million to 467 small businesses across 6 states. Total profits were down 5%. The board had voted to continue. An independent report from Yale School of Management had ranked Whitmore Capital in the top 10 community impact funds in the country. Edmund Whitmore, 70 years old, had recovered fully. He had written a memoir, played golf twice a week, and called Nora every Saturday morning, not to ask about the company, but to ask how she was doing. The dedication page read, "For Caroline, who said the right thing at the moment I wasn't listening. For Eleanor, who listened and said it back to me." Theodore Whitmore, 65, worked 4 days a week. He and Nora had lunch every Friday. He had begun writing a book, not about finance, about 31 years as the younger brother in his older brother's shadow. He did not plan to publish. He was writing to understand himself. Maggie Voss had been promoted to director of the chairman's office. She had begun tutoring a child, the daughter of a Whitmore employee whose family had been helped by the microloan fund. Adrian taught 2 sessions a week at Brown by video now. The department had asked him to come back part-time. He had agreed. He still fixed houses 3 days a week. He still taught math at the library. Nora had moved to 4 days a week in Millbrook, 3 in Hartford. The technology was good enough for the rest. She and Adrian had not married yet. They had decided on next spring. Wren, 9, had asked to be the lead flower girl. They had both said yes. A Saturday evening in early November. Adrian, Nora, and Wren sat at the kitchen table. Adrian wrote out the next week's list. Nora read a report. Wren drew. There was a knock at the door. 3 short, faint taps. All 3 of them looked up at the same time. Adrian got up and opened the door. A young man stood there, 35 at most, in a coat too thin for the weather, holding the hand of a small boy of about 6. The man was shaking from the cold. He said, "Mr. Holt, Mrs. Doris in town said you were the person to find. My wife was just diagnosed with cancer. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to tell my son. Mrs. Doris said you've walked through it. Could you, could you show me how? Adrian looked at the man. He looked back into the cabin. Nora was already on her feet. Wren had looked up from her drawing. Adrian stepped back and opened the door wide. Come in. My wife and I are making chicken soup. There's enough for 4. He had never called Nora my wife before. She heard it. She did not correct him. She went to get 2 more bowls. A year before, a man had stopped his truck because he could not drive past. A year later, he opened a door because he had learned. That was what people did when they had been saved once. They held the door open for the next person. Adrian Holt had once believed that kindness was a choice. He had been wrong. Kindness was a chain. And on that night, in a log cabin in Millbrook, Vermont, the chain had grown 1 link longer.